Oh, hello, everyone. As you come in, I hope you guys can comment. We're having some issues with the comments from our streaming, my streaming service. But if you are on, try to comment, say something so we can know that you are viewing at this time. Feel free to share. Welcome to our author's spotlight. If you don't know me, I am Coach Danielle Powell. I am the founder of Single to Pray. As you come in, try to comment so I can see that you guys are on. Because even if I don't display your comment, I can still see it on Facebook. So again, I am Coach Danielle Powell. I am the founder of Single to Pray. I am a content creator for you version and also a Christian life coach. As you come in, share. This is going to be a great topic. We want to give you guys some time to come in. Let me know where you are viewing from, and please tell a friend that we are on. And I'm just so happy you guys are joining us on today. This is our first author spotlight, and we have such a very special guest on today. I'm going to introduce him later on. But just a way of announcements for the book of the month for October, if you guys are a part of Singles Who Pray, the book for the month is Dangerous Prayers Because Following Jesus Was Never Meant to Be Safe by Craig Groeschel. And he is the founder of YouVersion, and we are using his book for this month. So if you are in Singles Who Pray, feel free to get the book. We are using this book for the month. And some of you have said it's been pretty good and you guys are loving it. So continue to join us on our book of the month. All right. And I know our Singles Who Pray group is mostly for women. We have some brothers that, they come in here and there. But today's topic, I feel like, is geared for both men and women, but mostly for brothers. But it's going to help many of us single women learn more about men. So this is going to be good, guys. You need to call your girlfriends. I see you guys coming in. Please try to comment so I can see if this is working, if the comments are working. I probably can't display it, but comment on Facebook and I will look at it later. All right. So today, for the author spotlight, we will be discussing the latest book called The Mask of Masculinity: How Men Can Reclaim Their Identity, Lead, and Love with Vulnerability. This book is so amazing. I've been reading it. I'm loving it. And it's by Dr. Eddie Connor Jr. Some of you know him from, a lot of the posts that's in the group. You guys be loving his posts. And I had him on, I believe last year. He helped me with Thriving Your Singleness. He was a guest, and you guys told me that you enjoyed that as well. So at this time, feel free to share. Tell us what state, what country. I know we have many people who will be watching later from different parts of the world. So welcome to our people who are watching the replay. So hello to my replay viewers. And feel free to comment, even if you get on at 3 o'clock in the morning. Please comment and tell us where you are from. So I have a very special guest all the way from Detroit, Michigan. He is a best-selling author of many books, over, I think, 10 books, more than 10 books. Am I correct? He has a lot of books. Yes. He's an international speaker. He has, did a lot of speaking engagements all over the world, Jamaica, all over. He's a minister, and he's the founder of Dr. Eddie Connor Academy. So welcome, Dr. Eddie Connor, to the broadcast. What up, though?
Oh boy, what up though? 313 represent. What's
Yes,
good? Glad to be with you tonight.
yes.
And you do such great work empowering people, especially the
Thank
singles who
you.
pray. The kingdom and the community. I love what you're
Yes,
doing, and so many people are empowered and impacted by your work. So we salute and celebrate you as a queen in the kingdom of God.
yes.
You're a queen who's quintessentially unique, empowering everyone naturally. So we celebrate you.
Awesome. Thank you. And I don't think I ever mentioned this to you before. When I first gave my life back to Christ, about I believe 10 years ago, 11 years ago, you were one of the people that I followed like from Twitter and Facebook. Your, consistency of your posts helped me on my journey. I don't think I ever told you that. I know we've been
Wow,
friends for a while,
wow,
but I never mentioned that to to
wow.
10 years ago.
That's wow. That's amazing. That's amazing.
Crazy. I think my
That's amazing. You
sister, she
never
put
know.
me on to, your post. And then I was like, oh, he's so good. And then you always would post, all the time. I'm like, wow. And then later on we connected. So you have been consistent and God is truly using you for his glory. So we are excited for tonight. So I'm just going to start off as you guys come in. I'm seeing the numbers go up. Feel free to share, share, share. We are on. Welcome to everyone who is tuning in. I'm so sorry I can't display the comments at this time. There's an issue, but we will see your comments on Facebook. So remember to comment and tell us where you are from. So at this time, you can just introduce yourself, Dr. Eddie Connor, and give a fun fact about yourself.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned a lot. I'm a son of the city of Detroit, by way of Kingston, Jamaica. Grew up in Jamaica for part of my life, so that might be somewhat of a fun fact. Little Jamaican accent back in the day. Kingston represents. So I know you're in New York. A lot of my father's side of the family moved over to New York, coming from the islands as well. So I used to play violin as a kid and in the Detroit Symphony Orchestra. It was kind of somewhat of a prodigy, but I put the violin down and picked up a basketball and ultimately a pen, as I have written 14 books now. So, I speak around a lot and empower people just to overcome obstacles. Um, I'm really, really intent on our online academy that we've been building called the Eagles Academy, empowering individuals to soar into success and purpose, purpose to profit, ideas to income, context to contracts, developing your faith, identity, relationships, speaker training, so much more. So that's been the draw for me lately.
Awesome, awesome. Didn't know that. Fun fact about,
Yeah,
the violin. I would never have thought that. So thank you so much for that. And as you guys
yeah.
come in, feel free to share. We are discussing a great topic on today. So that goes right into my next question. What was because you have written many books and there's a lot of empowerment books that you have written. So what made you write this book? What was the inspiration behind your new book?
Yeah, the inspiration behind my new book, and we might as well show and tell, a little visual aid here. The inspiration behind the book really just comes from the fact that, being a man is hard work, but it's heart work. And I think the hard work comes when we recognize and realize that vulnerability is not strength, vulnerability is weakness. Oftentimes, as men, we don't verbalize, we internalize, and oftentimes vulnerability and masculinity cannot coexist in the same space because society has oftentimes deemed vulnerability in masculinity as femininity, when really it's not about being masculine or feminine, it's being human. That's the whole aspect of what vulnerability is. It's not idiosyncratic to any particular gender. It's just the fact that it is a human aspect. And I think the hard work comes from the fact that when we take off our mask, we can heal from the pain of our past. Like the subscript of the book suggests, how men can reclaim their identity, lead in love of vulnerability, also embracing their humanity. And I think, even as I said, the being a man is hard work, but it's hard work. The hard work is in healing from intergenerational trauma. It's in healing from the psychological pain, from the emotional incarceration. And so, really, this book is written as a clarion call to champion men to live beyond the caricature and really embrace their true character. Real man is not about what he has, but who he is. I like to say we're more like Clark Kent than Superman. We're more like David Banner than the Hulk. We're more like T'Challa than Black Panther. And so, taking off the mask and the cape to give voice to our emotions, the struggles of what it is that we go through, our superpower is what makes us superheroes through that lens of vulnerability. And so, I really wrote this book to The Color Purple said, "All my life I had to fight," and I think all my life I had to write. I was working to write this particular book that really empowers readers to address the fears, the failures, the frustrations, the father wounds, and even the fights internally that we have as men, and how to heal from what we deal with.
Awesome, awesome. Love it, love it. And I believe that this book is going to help so many people, men and women. And I love that you're highlighting this vulnerability that men are so scared to show because
Hmm.
society. I'm not even going to go. I'm going before my question is, but I just love the whole concept behind this book. So this brings me to my next question. Um, so emotional trauma is something that many people don't like to talk about. It makes us feel like something is wrong with us, and through studies, certain behaviors are tied to emotional trauma, like fear, anxiety, anger, panic attacks, detachment, depression, and shame. And in the church world, we try to shout over everything. And of course, prayer is, we have to pray, but sometimes we just need to sit with a therapist to get to the root of the problem. And years ago, I was the first person in my family to go to therapy, and it was the best decision in my life. So, as I coach clients, I always, tell them if I feel like I hear something that may, like they need to go to therapy. I try to encourage them to go to therapy. You can, go to therapy and have Jesus.
Come on now.
So what? Hello, we
All
can
right.
do both. Because sometimes we just gotta. Sometimes we can't say everything to, you know, our family members, people in our life. We can't always tell them everything. So why not sit with a counselor? It could be a Christian counselor, therapist, and talk about what's really, deep rooted stuff that we can't tell anyone. So one of my favorite therapists right now is Dr. Nicole LaPera. She focused a lot on trauma. And I came across a tweet that she posted today, which is crazy. It said, trauma reveals itself in relationships. By pushing people away when they get too close, assuming everyone has negative intentions, unconsciously sabotaging relationships, and staying with partners who are hurtful and harmful. So tell
Mm.
us, Dr. Eddie, what are some ways what are different ways someone can get over their emotional trauma?
Yeah, that's powerful perspective that you're lending, and even putting it under the microscopic lens to kind of examine. Dr. Joy DeRoy, in her book Post Traumatic Slave Syndrome, she talks about the generational trauma that we carry in our DNA. Essentially, it's combustible. It's TNT. It's TNT being trauma and triggers. And I believe there's nothing wrong with Jesus. What's the matter with Jesus? He's all right. There's nothing wrong with Jesus and the therapist. If you even think about it in scripture, it says, in the multitude of counselors, there is safety. And so, adequate counseling is good for our mind, it's good for our soul, it's good for our spirit. Another step is literally in admitting that you have an issue. You go to Alcoholics Anonymous. What do they say? The first, I don't know if it's 10 steps, 12 steps, whatever steps it is, first admitting that you have an issue. If you keep saying the word issues, you'll eventually slip up and say, it's you. Issues, 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 it's you. And we don't like to do that. We don't like to talk about that. We don't like to expose that. We don't like to unveil that because we like to dress up our mess, smiling on the outside, but suffering in silence on the inside. And I'd like to say avoidance is not an anesthetic to numb you to your pain. You can't point the finger at other people and literally just play the blame game, going through life like that. And it calls into question these questions. How can you heal from what you won't deal with? How can you address what you refuse to confess? How can you fight what you won't face? And until we remove the mask of our trauma, here's what we're going to do. Adversely, we're going to bleed on people who didn't cut us, because hurting people hurt people, but heal people will heal people. And it's quite interesting if you think about it, because mental health has been uh, under the microscope. We don't even need to talk about Adidas and Yeezy. We can look at mental health being under the microscope, but you can't spell mental health without men heal. Our mental health is our true wealth. The core of sound mental health transpires when men heal, and I think we have to be emotionally intelligent enough to admit that we have an issue. We have to be emotionally intelligent enough to engage in the process of inner healing, of loving ourselves, of knowing our worth, of walking in wholeness. And here it is: wholeness is not solely for women. Wholeness is for us as men too. And an emotionally immature man is a danger to himself and others in the process. And so I think when we begin to remove that mask, when we begin to heal from our past, when we begin to focus not just on our brawn, but our brain, not just our muscles, but our mind, not just on our rage, but our stage of maturity, we'll understand that real masculinity challenges you to redirect that energy from confrontation into communication. Because here it is. Let me pile this on you, Miss Pile. Every day will be like Halloween for you until you take off the mask and address the fears, the failures, the father wounds, the mother wounds, the frustrations that are staring you in your face.
You are freeing us. And we just started. Like, listen, you
you
just said
you you done
emotion.
stirred it up. You done stirred us up. So
Gotta start.
it's up to you.
This is so good. We're just starting. Guys, as you come in, I see some new people coming in. This is Author Spotlight with Dr. Eddie Connor. We are discussing his new book, The Mask of Masculinity. And we are just trying to, speak about a topic that we don't often hear in the churches or just in the Black community. But we are opening the floor today to discuss many things that some men or even women go through. So, this brings me to my next question. So sometimes, in society, if a man he cries or show any emotion, that is considered a weak or a feminine trait. And just in society and movies, whatever, everyone, when you cry, is they think that's when a man cries, excuse me, that's a sign of weakness, and how it has been over the years. And I grew up with having my dad in the household, and I never really saw him cry. It wasn't because he didn't want to cry. I just never saw him cry. I would see him cry during worship in church. That's the only time I really saw him cry. Even both of my grandfathers, I never really saw them cry,
Mm.
publicly, or I just never saw them cry. So I grew up not seeing men cry. So if I had a boyfriend and if he cried, I was like, oh no, this is not, I mean, this is my younger years, guys. Don't judge me. If
Oh
I
yeah,
saw him
hey.
cry, I'd be like,
Tell the truth,
ooh,
shame the devil.
right? I'd be like, listen, like, no, seriously, like, there was one boyfriend, like, he really like break down and cried in front of me, and I was like, whoa, this is too much. And I was just like, I had to like sit back and look at things differently, because there's nothing wrong with showing emotion.
Yeah.
So how can masculinity and vulnerability coexist in the same place?
Here's one thing I had to learn is that there's victory in your vulnerability. But when we were growing up, especially as boys becoming men, we always thought it was taking an L. You soft, you weak, you a punk. Even the song Khalil by Boys to Men, it brings the song, the interlude, uh, brings to mind. It said, "No one to guide me. I'm all alone. I'm all alone. I need shelter from the rain to ease the pain of changing from boys to men." And this is what we deal with. This is what we go through, and oftentimes don't even mature through, because ever since we were boys, they told us don't cry, man up, don't express yourself. And as a result, we don't know how to tap into, as Bishop T. D Jakes would say, our he emotions. As a consequence, because we've been so socialized to never verbalize but internalize, by the time we get to you, we don't communicate, much less express ourselves because of how we have been socialized. And as I said before, vulnerability is not weakness, it's strength. We have trained boys to run away from emotions and see emotions as weakness. When you even hear the quote, they credited a lot to Frederick Douglass, who said, if we build strong boys, we won't have to repair broken men. But oftentimes, us as men are broken because of how we have been raised, how we have been socialized. As Dr. Sigmund Freud said, we are in adulthood what we have experienced in childhood. And until we unlearn what we have already relearned, we have to unlearn what we have learned. We have to retrain our brain and restore our heart. Um, Many times, the anger and even the anxiety of what it is that we have gone through, we've only been allowed to express any form of emotion, which is anger. That's the only emotion we've been allowed to express. But anger is just one letter away from danger. And so, getting from that place of dealing with our emotions, understanding that emotion is not weakness, but be also being able to control our emotions. Uncontrolled emotions will wreck your life, and being able to uh, grapple with the sadness, the fear, the loneliness, the anxiety, the depression, the thoughts that are deleterious to our destiny with mentors, right? A lot of times we think of mentorship being just from boys to men, men teaching boys. You can't spell mentors without men. Men need mentors. How you are at 20 is not how you are at 30. How you are at 40 is not how you are at 30. So on and so on. You need other brothers who have already been where you're trying to go to let you know this is what you can look for up ahead. Avoid this detour to destruction. Life teaches you in two ways: mistakes and mentors. It's best to learn from the mistake of a mentor than to bump your head and make the same mistake.
That is so good. Men need mentors.
Yeah,
Who you have to be accountable. That's another thing.
absolutely.
Accountability. I'm always asking whoever is interested in me, who is your mentor? Who is your pastor? Who are you accountable to?
Yeah.
Because that's important. I just love that because we need to have mentors. We need to have accountability in this season in order to get to where God is calling us to be. I just love that. Guys, as you come in, I got some messages. There's a problem with comments right now. So just try to comment in the comment section. Some people may not be able to. I can't display the comments at this time, but feel free to like, share at this time. This is Off the Spotlight. We have Dr. Eddie Connor Jr. He is discussing his new book, and it's so good, guys. So I want you
Yeah.
guys to
That's the
continue to,
masculinity.
yes, the mask of masculinity. This is new book. He has it right there. Put it back up.
Yep. There it is.
Yes, that's his new book.
Amazon,
And
Audible,
yes,
iTunes, Barnes and Noble, wherever you get it, it's
get it. I'm
available.
going to display the where you can buy the book. I know you guys are loving everything that you are hearing right now. So stay tuned. We're going to go deeper and deeper. So sometimes, as women, we find it hard to really understand men. From experience talking to men in my life, whether it's father or male figures, or just even friends, male friends. A lot of men, they want to be respected, honored, and they want women to understand them. And sometimes they're romantic relationships, or even it could be a platonic relationship, or a mother to son relationship, or even a sister to brother, or husband to wife. Sometimes it's hard for men to open up to the women in their life. So,
Hmm.
how can women create safe spaces for men to be vulnerable?
Oh, it's a deep question there. You know, when you think about the needs of a man versus the needs of a woman, his needs, her needs. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. Uh, Content in books like that. Our needs are different, and just because we're different doesn't mean we're deficient. Um, each joint supplieth. And when you think about it, as men, two of our main relational needs is that we desire admiration, and respect. We need to be reminded of the champion that is within us, whether we say it or not. We need to be reminded of it because after Superman is done flying around, we need a soft, safe space and place to land. We need recreational companionship. As men, we have a desire to, yes, be involved in challenging activities, some form of recreational hobby, but it's even more enjoyable when the woman in our life or the significant other in our life that God has placed in our life takes interest in what we like to do. Um, as a man, we also need our space. We often need time to ourselves. Think about it. Why do you think so many men have man caves? It is designated to provide a safe space for serenity and solitude. And sometimes a man cave is not just a place in a basement, it's a place in his mindset. True peace is priceless because as men, we simply need time to think. We got to have that time to strategize for our plans, our goals, our business pursuits, our family. And you think about it. I talked about admiration and respect a little bit, and community, recreational companionship. But notice I said nothing about love. It's not that we don't need love, but our primary need is respect. One of a woman's main primary needs is affection, attention wrapped in love. That's not necessarily one of our primary needs. We internalize love now through respect, which is shown, in that whole dynamic. Because at our core, we desire friendship, we desire praise, we desire peace, we desire community, we desire connection. And I think it boils down to when you're talking about women creating a safe space and place for a man to be vulnerable, it boils down to a woman's attitude and disposition. I know y'all don't like me now. Here's the question: are you a headache or a helpmate? Are you a refuge for a man to run to or an emergency exit for him to escape from? I know y'all y'all don't like me now. You want Danny to shut the whole thing down. But here's the question: can you hear his heart and allow him to take off his Superman cape without judgment? Because in every man is a lion and a lamb. In every man is a kid and a king. In every man is Clark Kent and Superman. In every man is a caricature and character, is a lover and a fighter. A man, here it is like a boxer. He doesn't want to have to fight in the ring and in the corner too. A man knows, I know, when I step out in the ring, I'm going to get hit. When I step out in the world, when I get on the corner, when I know somebody's probably going to call me something negative because they see my skin as a sin, right? But I know that when I go back into the corner, I shouldn't be getting hit. I'm Muhammad Ali. I need a Bundini. I need somebody to bandage me up. I need somebody to put the salve on my wounds. I need you to talk to me. Let me know that I'm a champion. The corner is the home. The corner represents me talking to you on the phone. Is that his refuge? Are you punching at him or are you celebrating him? Can you encourage the man? Can you speak to the champion in him? Can you speak life into his life? Can you uplift him when the weight of the world is on his shoulders? Heavy is the head that wears the crown. Can you lift him up? Can you call him a king? Can you call him a king and a champion when it looks like he's losing in life? Now that's a safe space and place for him to land and for him to take off his cape. Are you a headache
Wow.
or a helpmate?
Are you a
Are
headache?
you a refuge? Are you an emergency exit to flee from?
Listen,
Which one is it?
that
Which one is
that
it?
part so powerful. Like I hope you ladies,
Yeah.
because I get so many questions from my, Singles Who Pray family. The ladies, I have a big, you know, community of women. So I hope you guys are taking notes. Seeing how we could be safe spaces to the men in our life, whether that's romantically, if that's people, the men in your life. You have brothers, you have fathers, you have grandparents, grandfathers. How can we be safe spaces for the men in our life? And back to romantic relationships, because you guys love to talk about relationships here. Are you a headache or a helpmate. Wow. Powerful, powerful. Commercial
It's
break
tight,
as
but
you
it's
come
right.
in. Right? Listen, listen. Y'all know we keep it real on my, broadcast. This is real. Sometimes you have to look at yourself and say, am I a headache or a helpmate? And if you're being a headache, today is the day you could turn the tables
We giving you an
around. All right.
Advil. We giving you a Tylenol PM.
Listen, so you can turn it around, okay? So this brings me to, as you guys come in, shout out to my replay viewers. This is Author Spotlight with Dr. Eddie Connor Jr. He's discussing his new book, The Mask of Masculinity. And we are just diving deep and discussing his new book, but also highlighting different issues that we can overcome in this season. So this brings me to my next question. You have a whole chapter on marriage. And I will read a piece from this chapter because I absolutely love the whole chapter. I love the whole book, but I love this chapter as well. And you said, who is preparing and teaching our boys and men how to become husbands? We do a great job preparing women to be virtuous wives. However, who is teaching us to be faithful husbands? Are we preparing women to marry men who aren't prepared for marriage? Wow.
Mm,
This spoke volumes to me because sometimes we do have a narrative in church or just in society that is directed towards women. What we should do, what we should be. If we don't do this, we will miss out on marriage. If we don't act this way, um, and women, we are the ones that are always going to conferences. We're always going to therapy. We're always doing everything to become the wife or the person that we're supposed to be. And sometimes men are not always, that is not always directed towards men. So I want
mm.
you to discuss a little bit about that chapter, Marriage Minded Man. How should men prepare themselves to be godly husbands?
Yeah, the boy, fiery questions tonight. Um, we expostulate and really talk ebulliently about Proverbs chapter 20, verse 6. Proverbs chapter 31, verse 10, rather, says, who can find a virtuous woman, for her price is far above rubies. So we talk about Proverbs 31, verse 10, but we don't have much conversation, if at all, about Proverbs chapter 20, verse 6, who says, which says, who can find a faithful man? Now I'm more English than math, but 20 comes before 31. And so Proverbs chapter 20, verse 6 precedes who can find a faithful man, precedes who can find a virtuous woman. And I think we're in a space and place of the fact that brothers want sisters to be virtuous, but sisters want brothers to be faithful. And we are living in times where people are asking the prefix for both of those questions, who can find? We had the singer songwriter, gospel singer Vashawn Mitchell in here. I'd have him render us an A selection. Searched all over, couldn't find nobody. Looked high and low, still couldn't find nobody. Right? And so becoming the right one for the right one first begins with you being right for yourself. One thing that our feet are not necessarily held to the fire for us as men, and when you see the statistics suggest that uh, communication, money, and sex, top three indicators for divorce. When you hear statistics that suggest that 70 to possibly 80% of divorces are filed by women, men are lost in the sauce oftentimes. How men are even portrayed on sitcoms and in TV and on Netflix, and how they just have no clue of what it is they are. They're just being led by women, and they don't have any leadership. You can't lead her if you're not a leader. And here's the question: are you the priest of your home first before you can be the priest of the wife in your life? Are you a provider? Do you protect your loved ones? If you think about this in Genesis chapter 2, God gave man work before he gave him a woman. Adam walked with God in the cool of the day. Adam had four things in place before he was ever uh, given a woman. That is, Adam had a place. Uh, Adam had purpose. Adam had presence. Adam also had power. You need to have your own place as a man, and then you also need to know your place as a man. You got to know what your purpose is. A job is what you're paid for, but your purpose is what you're made for. You got to have presence. That's not just presence to where you G'd up from the feet up, to where you pull up to the scene with your ceiling missing. No, you got to have the presence of God. And then also, God gave Adam power. It was not power to dominate a woman, it was power to dominate his space. It was power for him to have dominion over the place of his purpose, not to subdue anybody else. Here it is. It's God who said, "It is not good for man to be alone." Adam never said it because the woman was a gift. The woman was not a requirement. And are you in such a place in your life uh, as a man to where God can say it's not good for you to be alone? You've 10x your purpose. You've maximized it. You are moving by yourself, but you'll be a force when you and her are together. She makes you better, right? Because if not, it is good for you to be alone, right? Because before I say I do to you, I have to first say I do to the purpose that God gave me to do. I have to partner with my purpose before I seek a purpose partner. And so I think it is leadership. I think it is vision. I think it's emotional intelligence. I think it's vulnerability, a prayer life with a relationship with Christ, of course, are just a few prerequisites. And let's not forget, and I'm sure the sisters going to shout and kick off their Louboutin heels when I say this one. Let's not forget, romance without finance will always be a nuisance.
Wow, wow, wow. You just said, listen, I am speechless. Listen, before I say I do to you, I have to say I do to my purpose. And
Yeah.
that is so deep. And I hope someone is hearing that right now. Maybe you are so focused on getting into a relationship. God is asking you to say yes to his will, say yes to your
Hmm.
purpose, and he will send you your purpose partner. So I don't know who that is for. God is speaking prophetically on today through Dr. Eddie Connor. And I know that is for someone out there. Before you say I do, make sure you are saying yes to I do to purpose. Wow, such a blessing. Now the comments are up. So you guys could comment. I think you can only comment on my page. So if you're in the group, I'm so sorry. I don't think the comments are able. I'm not able to post the comments from the private group, but feel free to come to my personal page and write a comment and I would display it. So thank you guys for commenting. Continue to comment. Tell us where you are from. Feel free right now to comment in the chat what state you're viewing from, what country. So I know we have a lot of international viewers in our group and a part of the family. So we are going to keep going, and this is author spotlight. So the next question. So we're going back to relationships. Um, Back to relationships. So many times, people are unable to pinpoint whether the person that they are interested in is emotionally unavailable, or maybe you've been getting to know this person for some time, or you are in a relationship with this person and you want to get to know them deeper, but there's like a blockage there. You're not able to really get to know them deeper, and sometimes it may be that that person is emotionally unavailable. So what are some indications that point to someone who may be emotionally unavailable?
Yeah. I think one of the hardest things for us to do as men is to admit our faults and our shortcomings. We try to cover our mishaps and mistakes with ego, with pride, with machismo. with the I'm a man. So listen to what I'm saying. With all that bravado, and I was watching First Take on ESPN, and Michael Irvin said bravado is nothing but false pride. Matter of fact, he said it's false courage. It is the veneer that we wear when we're really hiding the fear that's on the inside of us. And so rather than deflect our behavior and blame shift, we must admit and really change our actions. I think it is emotionally intelligent and emotionally available men are not threatened by the power of love. Rather than shun it, they embrace it. They embrace the power of love and vulnerability because love represents vulnerability. Vulnerability represents love. Um, I think you have to ask certain questions such as, is this person emotionally intelligent? Are they emotionally available enough to express the depth of who they are beyond, here it is, just sex, silence, a sandwich, and an ego stroke? There's more to a man than just that. Who are his mentors? Um, as I said before, men need mentors. Has he gone to counseling? Has he gone to therapy? Uh, is he willing to have hard conversations, even if you all don't see eye to eye? Can you have a disagreement without being disagreeable? Um, is he willing to right his wrongs because he understands that there is no respectability without responsibility? And I think that uh, is not necessarily the panacea for um, being emotionally unavailable. However, it begins to open up the vault door to where you're now able to crack the code and really see into the mind of the man and really recognize that. And then he wants you to see who he is too, because intimacy is more than just two bodies connecting. Into me, see. You're allowing somebody to see into you, not to just get information, but to get revelation for your current situation.
Thank you for that. That was
Yeah.
such good information. And we don't talk enough about being emotionally intelligent. And,
Right.
because sometimes we just go off of our emotions. We just, sometimes we act out in relationships by, not really thinking clearly or just, just taking time just not to get so upset about certain things. So emotional intelligence is really important, as you grow into the person you are called to be. So thank you so much for that, Dr. Eddie. So my next question, because this goes right into my next question. So, because we're always, we're talking about vulnerability. So, what are some issues? And you are a man, and what are some? And you could probably talk about from your own experience. What are some issues that men face that prevent them from being open and vulnerable?
Um, you know, as I said before, that quote by Dr. Sigmund Freud, we are in adulthood, we have experience in childhood. And what we do is we train boys and men to act out their feelings. However, that which you don't talk about, you act out. And that's why you see more criminal behavior in men, you see more shootings in men, you see more bar fights and domestic violence in us as men because we train men not to talk about what is going on inside of them. As a consequence, that pain is passed on to others because of unaddressed trauma. Oftentimes, we refuse to be vulnerable. We refuse to be vulnerable because we know how emotionally fragile we are as men. It's easy for us to run from our emotions because it causes us to analyze our old wounds rather than express our vulnerability. The human experience as a man is is about more than being stoic and strong. It's about embracing the fragility of our vulnerability. And oftentimes, as men, what we do is we fear emotional intimacy because oftentimes we are emotionally incarcerated by unresolved trauma. And what emotional uh, intimacy does is it exposes the ugly of who we are internally. It unmasks our strength, and it what it does is it reveals our struggles. It doesn't just shed light on the good; it sheds light on the bad and the ugly too. And so we'll never be ready for emotional intimacy until we're free interpersonally. As I said before, there's a kid in every king. There's sometimes a broken boy in every man. If we don't heal, we're going to bleed on people who didn't cut us. And I believe man means, as I wrote about in the book, man means to manage, man means to maintain, man means to manifest your destiny by using God's manual because you have a mandate. Um, think about this. If you notice in Scripture, the Scripture, when I was a child, I spake as a child, I understood as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. This particular Scripture is in the love chapter, 1 Corinthians chapter 13. Y'all are very familiar with it. Love is patient, love is kind. And here's the thing. If I can't substitute my name or the other person's name for love, am I or they really a person of love? Because the scripture now becomes a mirror. And here's the thing. It seems as if the Apostle Paul in this particular text is just throwing this scripture about men in the chapter. Doesn't seem like it fits at all. Doesn't seem like it fits into the context of what he's writing about. Or here's the question, does it? Simply because love requires vulnerability, but vulnerability is rooted in maturity. You can't have real maturity and masculinity without vulnerability. One of the hardest things we struggle with as men is in being vulnerable. Certain habits are not just going to leave for us as men. We have to be diligent enough to put it away. It may hurt to give it up, but you're going to see true healing if you're courageous enough to let go of what is hurting you. And so, the highest form of maturity and masculinity is in the intersection of accountability and vulnerability with change behavior. When the kid in us makes a decision to grow up, the king will always show up. Yeah. You're still muted.
So I think our live went off.
Oh, did
So
it?
yeah. So my sister just hold on, guys. If you are still on, comment. We may
The
have to get
devil
back.
big mad.
Right, big mad. But one thing about this, I can rebroadcast it.
Okay, okay.
Anyway, so okay, so I'm going to make
So
another link,
nice
and
you
I'm gonna
broadcast it twice.
right. So I mean, we can continue. I'm just gonna make another room, and then I'm gonna send you. Should I just email it to you, or just text it to you? The link.
Yeah, send me the link. It'll
Okay.
have the whole thing, right?
Well, we have to make another because of this. I'm gonna save this one, of course, but then we have to
Okay.
start a whole nother live stream just to finish it off.
Okay, okay, okay.
Yeah, because I don't know why it's
Sure.
not working.
Okay, no
Yeah.
problem. So I'll just
Okay.
stand by and look for the email.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
sounds good.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Mhm.